and welcome everybody. So glad you're here for the second forum that the racial justice advocates have hosted on the important question of immigration and what's happening to our immigrant community in this country under current policies. I'm Barbara Slater with Joan Kimball, who's just walking to the back there. We co-chair the Racial Justice Advocates. And we're very happy to have representatives from three groups that are working locally on immigration concerns: Fuerza, Blue Boat Home, and Witness, Lincoln Witness. Now, we may be doing a little pinch hitting on Fuerza because we have not yet seen Alex, who was supposed to be. Oh, he's here. Oh, Alex, good, wonderful, okay. Nice surprise for me, good. So they're here. The forum is set up in this way. The first part will be a panel in which the three local representatives, those three, will be speaking briefly, just talking about their program and what they do. And then we'll have second part, breakout sessions, and you'll see over on each corner of the room the names of the groups. And you'll have an opportunity to talk to the individuals, to talk individually with them. Also, Bijan will be represented by Amanda Hill, who is going to be at the breakout group, but not as part of the panel. So the procedure for the panel is Nate will introduce the themes and the speakers. And then we'll hear from the three people working locally, just brief presentations, just like I'm standing here right now. And Sarah will do the wrap-up and direct us to the different breakout sessions. So welcome, and Nate.
Thank you, Barbara. Thanks, everybody, for sticking around. In the midst of our busy fall, we know that, as I said at the end of our service, there is a crisis going on, a crisis affecting people close to us, affecting people that we see on TV, on social media. Last spring alone, ICE detained 1,500 people in Massachusetts. Raise your hand if you saw the video last week of the 5-year-old girl who was held outside by ICE agents, sort of to lure the I think it was the father outside. If you follow the news about what happened in Chicago this past week, unimaginably violent, destructive raids, snatching people up, many of whom are our citizens or are related to citizens, and this is tyrannical behavior, right? This is the behavior of a government that is at war with its people. And so what we want to do today, as Barbara said, is share a little bit about three organizations doing wonderful work right in our vicinity. But it's not really just about learning and listening today. It's actually about taking that next step for many of us towards showing up. So as you hear these folks, I want you to think about, well, where might I be able to plug in myself and help out? So we're going to start with Alex from Fuerza, and then I think we're going to hear from Lori from Blue Boat Home, and then we're going to end up with Kim from Lincoln Witness, right? So join me in welcoming Alex from Fuerza.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for coming after you already had another service and a lot of stuff going on, so I really appreciate you sticking around. So I live in Waltham, and I can just share some personal things of what brought me into Fuerza. I'm a renter. I organize around tenants' rights. And some people that I used to organize with the past few years were taken by ICE and are still being detained. We've paid bonds, and we still haven't seen people get out. And so it definitely has touched me and the people that I worked with in Waltham. To the point about children, one of the first things that really galvanized a lot of people in Waltham is we all saw a father be taken from his child who was left in the streets, who's like 11 years old. There was some news articles about it, but I saw that, and that was just a moment of like, we have to get organized, we have to protect our people because safety is in our community. And so I'll just share Fuerza's mission statement, and then we actually just recently ratified at a town hall some points of unity. And so I'll share those, and then I'll share some of the different ways you can get involved. So Fuerza's mission: we're a grassroots network committed to defending immigrants in Greater Boston from ICE detention and deportation. Through community solidarity, rapid response, and advocacy, we aim to protect our neighbors, challenge anti-immigrant policies, and build a safer future where all people, regardless of immigration status, can live without fear. So the principles that we unite around are: first, we fight for one another because our liberation is connected. We defend and care for our neighbors as they would do for us. We expect messiness and risk, yet we choose growth and trust. Together we put the mission first, and through collaboration we evolve. We build power towards dignity and agency in a system that denies both. Because we cannot reform a system that denies our neighbors' humanity, abolishing ICE is central to our call. We listen to organize and organize to listen. We're accountable to those most affected, knowing our analysis and action must continually be challenged. We judge the system, not the people. No human being is illegal. So if you resonate with any of those principles of unity, you're welcome to get involved with Fuerza. We have many ways to get involved. I have some flyers here. We now have a fiscal sponsorship with First Parish Waltham, and so they're helping us raise funds for families. We have a pretty built-out community care working group that has many different elements, helping families who've had people taken get their rent paid, for example. Many times the people taken are the breadwinners of a family, and so people get behind on rent, they get evicted. We've already seen this happen. People need help with childcare, especially if you suddenly became like a single-parent household. We help with that. We help with food distribution. There's pantry services every other Thursday in Waltham, and we have people that do food deliveries because now people are afraid to go get food and stand in line. So there's many ways to get involved. You could be on the street team and be someone who's outside, who stands at bus stops with children, hangs out and does court watch. We have court accompaniment of people afraid to go to the courthouse because the courthouse is kind of just a hot spot for being taken. You could help drive food deliveries. Or you can just stay and be part of fundraising efforts. If you want to be involved in street team but you don't want to be on the street, you could be a dispatcher. You can help look at our text messages and try to organize who should be in what location. We have case managers. We have people working on dealing with trauma, because this is a very we see traumas literally every single day, and so we're trying to build out a group to help hold space for each other so that we can be healed, so that we can keep going out on the streets. So if trauma-informed work is something important to you, that's another way that you could get plugged in. There's so many different ways. Feel free to talk to me after if there's certain ways that you want to get plugged in, but we have shifts basically every day, all morning and afternoon, though we are starting to see some more nighttime activity that happened on Friday. There's a lot of ways you can get involved. And if you know other people, I have flyers here that have a QR code to our intake form. And so what will happen is when you scan the QR code, you'll be sent to a form. You'll fill out the form, and then we have a welcome team that will do a one-on-one conversation with you, find out how you want to get plugged in, and then you'll be added to the relevant chats. So that's the process of intake. I think that's good for me right now. Thank you.
Welcome, Lori from Blue Boat Home.
Hi, everybody. Wow. I am going to start working with Fuerza, I hope, fairly soon. I'm really inspired by all that you all are doing and how quickly you've pulled it together. It's just remarkable. So, do you remember back in the winter, people were sleeping on the floor at Logan, sleeping in the subways? Those were folks, primarily undocumented folks who had just arrived, and they had nowhere to go. The shelter system was not working very well at that point, remember? So my colleague and good friend Regina Correo, we're both from the First Parish Concord Immigration Task Force. She took a family in and by working with an organization, back then it was the Brazilian Worker Center, and now it's a different organization, who are routing families who do not have any place to stay into volunteer housing. So Regina named this organization, loose group of people from First Parish and lots of other folks too, Blue Boat Home, after one of our favorite hymns. Things have changed, undoubtedly. You've seen how the border is effectively closed. And so Blue Boat Home is now serving people who have been in the United States for a while or have come in from other states because they see Massachusetts as a little more welcoming than some of the other parts of the country. So the model is called cluster hospitality. And the way it works is a bunch of families decide they're going to be host families, and they form a circle of care so that a new family coming in who needs a host will go from house to house to house, the number of days that each family can volunteer to house them. Most of the folks we've been hosting are mothers with young children. There have been a couple of couples and a couple of pregnant women and so forth, and they've come from various places. We take care not to ask their status, partly out of respect and partly out of protection for them and for us. This has been going on since last winter, and we've had about 15 families through this time. Just in August, I think there were 40 hours, or 40 days rather, of accumulated hosting time. And we need more hosts. So that's my primary call for help from you all, is to consider becoming a host. There's a lot of support. The group meets every 2 weeks by Zoom, troubleshooting, refining what our expectations and practices are. And it's been really quite a remarkable experience for everybody who's been involved. There's other kinds of volunteer housing as well, longer term, but we've discovered that one of the advantages to the disadvantage of having to move from place to place to place to place is that they are considered unhoused, and therefore they're more likely to get more permanent housing than if we said, okay, let's do the welcoming neighbor model, which is we take in a family for a year and we take really good care of them for a year until they can become independent. But this is the model that I'm working with. It's called cluster hospitality. So I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have, and hoping that maybe you consider signing up to be a host as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. And now we'll welcome Kim from Lincoln Witness.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Kim Gillette, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm pleased to be here again representing Lincoln Witness, a group I co-founded with Kathy Madison. A couple of us from our group recently attended a workshop sponsored by Acton Indivisible, and a presenter shared a quote by activist Ursula Wolf-Roca that resonated with me, and I'd like to share it with you. She said, "It can be overwhelming to take in all of the injustices of the moment. The good news is that they're all connected. So if your little corner of work involves pulling at one of the threads, you're helping to unravel the whole damn cloth." Lincoln Witness was established with the primary purpose of mobilizing as a rapid response team should ICE ever come to Lincoln. Now we have almost 40 members, and I'd like to tell you some of the ways that we have been working to pull at the threads of injustice in the short time that we've been together. We've had Know Your Rights cards printed and have been sharing them widely. We've met with town leaders here in Lincoln to help them prepare an FAQ and disseminate that to citizens so that people can understand their rights better. We'll be helping the town to organize an educational event with the selects in public safety so that people can understand the local government's role with this increased ICE activity. We've been writing petitions and urging people to sign them. We've marched, protested, and we've witnessed. Many of us have responded to the request to show up for individuals required to check in at the Burlington ICE facility. If you didn't know, there's a facility right by the mall where they are holding people for sometimes up to, I think the longest detention I've heard is 20 days there with no beds. Very poor facilities, and so sometimes people are required to check in there daily. And recently some of our group went when a 16-year-old from Milford was required to check in one day and his parents the next day. So some of us were at that. Several of us attend the weekly vigils that are held there on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And we've even hosted our own Ladies' Liberty Vigil there. You might remember us from the 4th of July parade. So if you would like to don a crown and come join us one of these days there, we would love that. Finally, Lincoln Witness wants to build bridges between organizations. Therefore, members who are able have started to help fundraise for Fuerza in Waltham, which, as you've heard, has been hit hard, and many of our members are just getting up and running and working with Fuerza. So in all, Lincoln Witness members connect each other with ways to unravel that cloth of injustice, all while providing mutual support. Because Lincoln may feel like a safe and isolated enclave, but the airport at Hanscom has recently resumed ICE flights after a brief pause this past summer. A woman in Lincoln who worked here for many years was taken back in May, and we believe she's still in detention. In September, Lexington had its first ICE arrests that were carried out right in front of school children waiting for their morning bus. So we don't know if ICE will come to Lincoln. What we do know is that they're operating right next door, and we are called upon to support and care for our neighbors. So whatever you do you all know what you would do if you saw ICE? Call the Luce hotline. Yes, that's the first thing to do. Call the Luce hotline. Stay out of their way. You don't want to get arrested. It's also important, though, that you know you have the constitutional right to film it, to record it. And we know that that makes a difference in the outcome. Not every time, but sometimes. If you're questioned by ICE agents, you don't have to say anything. You have the right to remain silent, and you don't have to let them into your home without a signed judicial warrant. So having that plan in your head is really important, but it's not enough. The time for action is now. We know when people's rights, when one group's rights are denied, when their humanity is denied, that governments take the rights and humanity of others. So we're not just working to protect immigrant rights, we're working to protect everyone's rights. So if immigration is the thread that you'd like to pull at in this tapestry of injustice, come visit us at our table or check us out online at lincolnwitness.org. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all for being here and for sharing. I heard that theme a lot through each of your presentations about how all of our liberation is bound up together, and what happens to one happens to us all. And so with that in mind, let us show up for each other. We're moving into a time where you'll be able to speak one-on-one or in small groups with each of the groups that you've just heard from. So I invite you to take a look around the room. You see Blue Boat Home will be stationed over in this corner here. Lincoln Witness and Bijan. Bijan is the organization that was also at the August 31st forum here with Annie speaking, and basically they show up for folks that are going through different court cases, and you'll hear from Amanda Hill about what that is like as she's been able to bear witness to those cases and see what is happening in these cases as they unfold. We have a station over here for Fuerza, and then we have a station over here for advocacy. So there'll be a series of petitions, specific laws that we are wanting to advocate for, ways that we want to be thinking about changing the system. So we've heard a lot of different ways that we can get involved today, from bearing witness to engaging in mutual aid and support in the context of relationship, to changing that system. So I invite you to think about the ways that you feel called to show up in this moment, and I invite you to go forth and engage and ask the questions, because none of us are free until all of us are free. Amen? Amen.